expand our imagination.
Justification for being what you are.
Hello and welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes. Our series Behind the Ballot has brought you candidates from all over the country, Senate, House, and governor's races. But today, we're staying here in the district where incumbent one-term mayor Adrian Fenty is in a tough race against DC Council Chairman Vincent. It's a very hot race here, and the mayor's primary is next Tuesday. In recent polls, Fenty trails Gray by at least 5 points with likely voters. CBS News' Christine DeLargy caught up with Mayor Fenty at an event earlier today. Take a look.
So what is your pitch right now to DC residents? What do you tell them that you've done for them as mayor?
Well, I don't know if you overheard the conversation. I mean, what we say in essence is that Washington, D.C. is a city that is moving forward extremely fast. There's some things that have happened over the past 4 years which are just have never happened in D.C. Or if not, if they haven't been for a long time. One of them is crime. Violent crime is way down the city. We're one of the fastest jurisdictions in reducing crime. In fact, our homicide rate is down to lower than 1966. So we've reduced it to like a 45-year low. We've had population growth in the city. Over the past year, the population in D.C. grew more than it has since the 1940s. If you drive around D.C., you're seeing neighborhoods coming back to life. Places in Southwest and Columbia Heights, east of the river neighborhoods, neighborhoods that had previously been neglected, but because of our administration's focus, a lot of great renewal, a lot of great city services being offered, all of it in the midst of an 80-year recession. And then kind of our signature issue, education. Over the past 4 years, probably no school system has ever made this amount of academic progress in such a short period of time. 4 years ago, it would have been unheard of for Washington, D.C. even to apply, let alone win a national competition among states and cities for the race to the top dollars that we were able to receive. We believe that is because of Chancellor Ree's strong academic reform and because of the leadership I've shown as mayor by having mayoral control and the political support we've given.
So come Tuesday and Election Day, win or lose, what happens to Michelle Rhee and some of the progress you made on education in D.C.?
Well, I think what the Chancellor has said is that it is impossible to do her job without having a mayor who is 100% politically supportive of the reforms she's making. What you have seen by other politicians, and my chief opponent is one of them, is a real mixed bag. They support some things, but they second-guess others. They micromanage other things. You have to be willing 100% of the time to say, listen, we selected this person as the educational leader for our city. We are going to back them and the tough decisions that they make. Yeah, I've done that for 4 years. It's one of the reasons that we've got such strong growth and strong progress. It doesn't look likely that any other people running against me, including my chief opponent, would do the same thing. Yeah, I think that is why she has said it'd be very, very tough to work under an administration besides ours.
Now, despite all the things you just listed, in one of the most recent polls I've seen, you're actually trailing your chief opponent, Vincent. Why do you think that is, and how do you turn that around by Tuesday?
I think it's twofold. One, in the campaign, as I stated, we've, there's been a lot of discussion about everything else except, the records, and I think as soon as, we get back to focusing on, what I have been able to do as mayor, what my record of performance is versus my opponent's record as a failed manager in the mid-90s, I think people will see, yeah, let's go with someone who's got a proven track record, especially since he had more responsibility. Yeah, the second thing is we've made a lot of tough decisions. Going, at the bureaucracy, at the entrenched way the government operates, as hard as we have for 4 years, you're going to make some people upset. I mean, when we made the decisions to consolidate 27 schools or to lay off half the central administration, I wasn't naive. I didn't think that we were going to do these things and everybody was going to still, support me in the same way that they did when I was reelected. These are tough decisions, but they were the right things to do because they have more dramatically improved our school system than ever before. There have been others like that. When you make those type of tough decisions, you get political pushback, and that's why we've had an uphill battle. But I believe when we get to the tape on Election Day, people are going to say we want a mayor, who knows how to get things done, who knows how to make tough decisions. That's what you need in leading a big multi-dimensional organization like the DC government.
One other question on polls.
Sure.
Some would say that you have a little bit of a disconnect with the African-American community, a big demographic in DC. Why do you think that is?
Well, one of the things that we've done is, as mayor, I ran on this campaign. We're going to go 1,000 miles an hour. We're going to drive as fast as we can to reform the government. When you do that, when you move that fast, you miss a couple steps of including people, making people feel a part of the government, communicating with people. I think in the African American community, maybe you're feeling even a greater disconnect because of that. Going forward, what I have said is that in my second term, we're going to have to do a lot better job communicating, listening to people, making sure they feel a part of the process and feel a part of the government. Even my most critical poll acknowledges that over 65% of the people who are polled think that we're doing a really good job leading the city. Our charge over the next 5 days is to connect that progress with how people feel connected to it. And we'll be able to do that. We'll be successful. And just like in all my previous campaigns where we made really strong pledges to get things done, I'm hardwired to deliver, and we'll do so.
Just one last question.
Sure.
So you've asked the White House to endorse a candidate in this race, presumably yourself.
Right.
Why did you do that, and where does that stand?
I mean, why wouldn't any mayor in the country ask, a great president for their support? That's just something that you do as part of an effective, aggressive campaign. But we're not naive. The President of the United States has a lot of things on his plate. He's doing a fantastic job. He doesn't have time to go around supporting mayors.
Very interesting primary taking place next Tuesday. Thank you so much, Christine, for that interview. Joining me now is senior political producer Jill Jackson. She's here for Unplugged's weekly series, Hot Ads of the Week. Hi, Jill.
How are you?
I'm great. What have you got for us this week? Some fun ones, I hope.
We have some fun ones. Our first ad is sort of serious. It's from Democratic candidate Betsy Markey of Colorado. She's running in a very tough race for her second term representing Colorado in the House.
Got it. Let's take a look.
Washington politicians are always bragging about big accomplishments. But as a small businesswoman, that just sounds like more big spending to me. So I voted against the Wall Street bailouts, pushed to cut congressional salaries for the first time in 77 years, and fought for small business tax credits that create Colorado jobs. I'm Betsy Markey, and I approve this message because Washington thinks spending more money is always the answer. And here in Colorado, that's not how we do business.
So what makes this a hot ad?
Well, what's interesting about it, it's a theme we're seeing from many Democrats and Republicans this election cycle, that she's a small businesswoman, and that's what she really wants to put out there. Not that she's a congressperson. No one wants to be seen as
You wouldn't even know that from the ad that she's in Congress or that she's a Democrat. I don't think she mentions that.
Exactly.
I was talking to one expert today who said that anybody who's run so much as a popsicle stand is advertising that they have business experience. It's all about business experience right now.
Exactly, and she did have an internet consulting firm that she started with her husband, but at the same time, she also raises one thing about how she voted against Wall Street bailouts, but as a one-term congressperson, she wasn't there for the big TARP, so she may have voted against things that were not necessarily friendly to Wall Street, or voted against things that were friendly to Wall Street, but she certainly didn't vote for what people think of when they think of Wall Street bailouts.
And she's in a really tough race, right? Because she won in a district that John McCain won in 2008, and she's a Democrat, so she's got enough.
Colorado, very conservative. Yeah. So it was, a lot of people were surprised she even won in 2008.
Got it. Okay, what's our second hot ad of the week?
Actually, our next two ads are both from the Florida Senate race, which, as you know, is a three-way race. We have Charlie Crist here. He's running as the independent, Florida's governor, right here.
How do we get results for Florida? By putting aside our differences and putting people ahead of politics. Washington needs to stop all the finger pointing and focus on our common goals of fixing the economy, creating jobs, helping the middle class. As an independent, I will take the best ideas of Democrats and Republicans to get things done. Because at the end of the day, there's only one party I work for. I'm Charlie Crist, an independent, and I approve this message.
That's a clever bit of rebranding.
It is. It's sort of rise above it all. One thing that has bothered many people who've watched this ad, though, is if you notice in Americans, the M is red and the I is blue. Well, there's no I in Democrats, no red. So some people have watched this very closely, including the Meek campaign. Pointed out the I to me. You know, but at the same time, what he's trying to do is very much rise above it all. He's going to let Rubio, the Republican, and Meek, the Democrat, really sort of battle it out on the partisan level, and he's going to seem like the mature one who's responsible, he gets in the little anti-Washington jab there himself, but he comes off as a problem solver in that ad.
And as we all know, Governor Charlie Crist was a Republican. He left the Republican Party to become an independent when it looked like he was not going to win the Republican primary, and so he's trying to turn what was a negative, the fact that he was trailing in the Republican primary, into a positive, which is that he's an independent and he's there for all Floridians.
Exactly, but one thing that that some Democrats have pointed out is that there aren't many specifics in that ad either.
Right.
Unlike
It's just
the
a
third
feel-good ad. Oh, the third ad is a lot of fun. This is the Meek ad, right?
This is the Meek ad, the Democratic candidate for Florida, and he really lays it all out as to where he stands.
Let's take a look.
I'm Kendrick Meek, the Democrat for Senate, and with 3 of us running, you should know what makes me different. I'm the only one who's fought against developers draining the Everglades. The only one against offshore oil drilling before and after the BP spill. The only one against privatizing Social Security. The only one who's pro-choice, who took on George Bush, who's fought for middle-class tax cuts, against high credit card fees, and to raise the minimum wage. I'm Kendrick Meek, and I'm the only one who can approve this message.
You know what stands out the most about that ad is that the other ads in his primary, in fact, all these primaries in Florida have been so nasty, you walk away hating all of the candidates, that it's kind of refreshing just to see somebody saying something positive.
Exactly. You've got the bouncy music, and you have him saying exactly, you know, he's probably the only Democrat in a competitive race this cycle who's really running as a liberal, as a Democrat. He's very proud of it.
I'm pro-choice.
Yes, pro-choice. He got a little jab in on Social Security there, but
cheering senior citizens, who doesn't love that?
Exactly. You know, fighting against credit card fees, who doesn't love that? He really, it comes off as very positive, but does, you know, he makes some points that he wants to make on his record. He also, his campaign, you know, pointed out to me, we're probably the only people who had a Pelosi robocall during the primary. They really are embracing the Democratic role because that's what he has to do to make himself different in this 3-way race.
Right, most people running away from the Democratic label or even any incumbent label in this anti-incumbent year.
That's right.
All right, Jill, well, thank you for bringing us those ads, and stay with us because we have another fun segment now to close out the show, and that is with the editor-in-chief of Washingtonian Magazine, because as you know, Congress is back in session next week. What better way to prepare than with a classic best and worst list? Washingtonian Magazine polled those who know their members best, their top aides, on everything from who's the best dresser to who's the king or queen of earmarks. You're taking a look at the article there, and editor Garrett Graff joins me now with some of the highlights. Hi, Garrett.
Pleasure to be here.
We're so glad to have you. And Jill, because she covers Congress, is here as well. We see these people day in and day out. Tell us what some of the best and worst were that stood out to you.
Well, this is a poll that we do every 2 years and have for quite a long time, and we ask, as you said, the aides to tell us sort of what they see behind the scenes, sort of who do they like, who do they not like. And it's always a funny mix for us of rising stars and the hottest and all of that. What was particularly funny, I think, in this iteration this fall was in both the House and the Senate, the person who topped the rising star list was also the one who topped the gym rat list, sort of the person who most works out in the House or the Senate gym. So in the Senate you had John. Looks do play an important role, but maybe it also says something about how dedicated they are, how hard they're willing to work. You had John Thune doing very, very well in the Senate, and you had Paul Ryan, the congressman from Wisconsin, doing very well on the House. One of the young guns.
One thing that I thought was interesting here in the best and worst of the Senate, you've got your surprise standouts. Al Franken came in first, then Scott Brown. But they also topped the list of biggest disappointments. Scott Brown came in first, and Al Franken and John McCain came in second. So what's that about?
Well, you have a lot of partisan votes going, I think, there, where Democrats will write in someone as a rising star and Republicans will write them in as a biggest disappointment. But Franken, sort of sum total in the poll, actually comes out really well. He gets both the funniest, he's a rising star, He's a surprise standout, and he also is one of the least likely to star in a scandal.
Oh, well, that's always good.
Yes.
Franken's had a chance to really shine, though, because there's been a Supreme Court confirmation hearing since he was elected, and he's been able to show, through in the hours and hours of hearings with that, he's been able to show that he can ask serious questions and that he can probe when he needs to, and has
not just
impressed
a funny
some.
guy. Who else comes off well in this poll, or badly?
Well, one of the things that I think sort of bodes well for Dick Durbin after this November, if Harry Reid ends up out one way or another as the Democrats' leader, is Dick Durbin both wins most eloquent and hardest working, which is a good nice category there. On the House
and he's
side,
the number 2 in the Senate right now, so he's kind of in the pole position.
And then on the House side, Arizona voters should be very happy. Jeff Flake comes out as both least likely to star in a scandal and one of the lobbyists' biggest enemies. So if that's your congressman, you should be pretty proud of that.
Yeah, and actually, this is a great year to be anti-earmarks, which is what he is, right? So,
Indeed.
So he comes off well there. Talk a little bit about, we were just looking at the ad a couple of minutes ago, John Barrasso. I saw a picture of him up there in the ad. He comes off as brainiest.
The brainiest category for us is always an interesting one, and one where, again, you have a lot of overlap between people who are voted most eloquent, hardest working, and brainiest. Paul Ryan also doing very well in the brainiest category.
Now, who doesn't come off very well?
Well, there are sort of a couple of funny ones. Roland Burris, who took over Obama's seat in the Blagojevich debacle that was that reappointment, he comes off as the most clueless. That was a bipartisan vote.
Oh dear.
He doesn't have a lot of time to fix that.
No, he doesn't. So he might go out with that as his moniker. One of the other sort of funny ones is David Dreier, congressman from California, seems to do very well in the poll. He is eloquent, he's brainy, he's best dressed, but at the end he's also going to be one of the people most likely to star in a scandal.
Why does he have that reputation, Jill?
I think he has been part of the he was part of the Republican Party that got into so many scandals when they were led by Tom DeLay and the Abramoff scandal was hitting and all of that. He was always sort of in the wings and connected to the people who were touched by scandal. At the same time, he managed to stay out of most of those things. But he's also, you know, he is a very hard worker. As the top Republican on the Rules Committee, he's there late nights. He's on the floor all the time, having to really toe the Republican line. So it could be that maybe he's learned it being there in those late nights.
Very visible.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so John Boehner, the House Minority Leader, is in the news a lot right now. How did he do?
He does not do very well. He does very well in the lobbyist best friend category, which particularly this year is probably not a category you want to be winning in this election year, and also comes off not unsurprisingly as one of the most partisan. But beyond that, he also comes across as one of the biggest partiers in the House, sort of the people who like to go out and have a good time on the town.
Got it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for your image when you're in the House?
I think right now, when Republicans are really trying to make a good impression, as they can taste they can taste taking back the House right now. It's not such a good thing, and I think that's why you see the Eric Cantor, Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy crowd trying to brand the Republican Party on their own with their whole young gun, anti-Republican establishment, or anti the old Republican establishment. You see them really trying to promote that brand rather than the sort of
Washington
old
cocktail party type of thing. Gary, you know what I always wonder when I see these lists is, do you get deluged by calls from members of Congress or their offices saying, hey, that's not fair, take us off of that list, how could you do this to us?
We almost actually never hear from congressmen on this list. It's sort of a funny thing. I think the people who don't do well don't want to draw any more attention to it.
Right.
But as you can imagine, this is a list that plays very big in Peoria, as they say. There are a lot of hometown papers that follow this, hometown TV stations, hometown radio stations that pay pretty close attention to how their congressmen and senators do.
You're not getting followed home at night then?
No,
Okay.
I hope not.
Good to know. All right, well, Garrett Graff, we really appreciate you being here with us and sharing the Washingtonians' best and worst of Congress with us today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And that's going to do it for Washington Unplugged. Thanks so much for watching. You can join us here every day on CBSNews.com. I'm Nancy Cordes. Have a great day. See you soon.